This is your Drive Time News Blast. 30 minutes jam-packed with up-to-the-minute news from a perspective of truth, liberty, and justice every weekday. This is Monica Perez.
And I'm Brad Binkley.
I'm not going to the top story first. The top story is going to hijack the entire show. Today is when public impeachment hearings started, and I'm overwhelmed with... I feel like I've cracked the code in 3 different directions. And I am dying to hear what you have to say about something that isn't the top headline, but I can't let this show go without hearing about it. What the heck is with the Epstein didn't kill himself meme? What's going on? It even popped up in one of our comment threads. What the heck?
Yeah, about a week and a half ago, maybe, one of the military dog trainers or handlers, I believe, was a guest on Fox News.
Yes,
Jesse Waters' show.
That.
Gave this nice interview and very professional interview. Then at the end of the interview, he said, "Thank you very much," and Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. And
that was great.
That kind of started the meme where you're talking to someone about something else completely, and then very casually you say, "Oh, and Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself."
I like to do that with taxation as theft.
Oh, that's another good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like a non sequitur.
Yeah,
meme.
Very non sequitur, and it's spread.
So fun.
It's cropped up on MSNBC. Somebody who was at one of Ben Shapiro's talks, they asked a question and ended it with that. It was on a note stuck on top of a telephone pole on a video on Twitter. I'm pretty sure the person who took the video did that.
Knew that, of course.
And there's a student outside the Alabama LSU game who did it at the end of an interview at being asked a question. We got one in our iTunes reviews. There's memes all over the internet. My friends' kids were saying it in casual conversation.
Oh, my gosh. It's like the gnome that pops up in pictures.
Yeah, exactly. Now John McAfee is saying...
Oh, really?
Although he's saying something a little bit different. And this is my greater point, is he's saying that Jeffrey Epstein was murdered. The meme is Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself, not Jeffrey Epstein
could go either way.
Was murdered. Yeah,
right.
Because I think that this has the potential, the way that they continue to keep talking about it, to reinforce this idea that Jeffrey Epstein is definitely dead. And I just don't believe that. I don't believe that that's definitely the case.
Right. That's why actually it's not, because it's not Epstein was murdered. Like, that's very clear that they're not saying Epstein was murdered. They're saying Epstein didn't kill himself. Yeah. Very clear. And that's why I can embrace it, because I really don't know what the answer is, but I'm pretty confident he didn't kill himself.
I'm confident he didn't as well. And I think everybody was confident of that before this meme started. It's not like there's people really disagreeing or pushing back. Everybody's kind of agreeing. But he was the type of person who would seek some sort of witness protection. And if you read the prison manual, which I did, he fits into the person who would do that. And he gathered this information for years on these people. We heard the woman and the journalist who said they had the cameras and they had the testimony from some of the people who were down on the island. He did that for a reason, and that's so that he could use it if this situation ever arose. And now I don't know if he's if he exchanged information, if this were true, to out other people, or if he had some other type of information that was valuable to them.
See, I feel his connections, his protections are actually higher than that, which also makes him vulnerable.
Yeah.
It also makes him more vulnerable. So let's say he's Mossad, right? And say that goes above and beyond all this stuff that Mossad can get to you in witness protection, and they can keep you from getting killed too.
Right, so exactly. That's another
does he get, he's ready. He looks like he's ready for plastic surgery. Every picture I've seen lately is like he looks 10 years older than last year. So I figured I could just give him plastic surgery. He's got the resources, or at least access to the resources, to live the high life and emerge as some other Jeffrey Epstein. He doesn't even have to change his name. There's so many damn Jeffrey Epstein.
That's very true. And I think the hashtag Jeffrey Epstein is not dead might be an appropriate one for people who believe this theory. And I also want to say that somebody tweeted this at us a few days ago. Brian Stelter of Reliable Sources on CNN, most unreliable show on television. He opens his show each week by saying, this is your weekly look at the news, behind the scenes, and how the news gets made. That's how he opens his show. So it's about media analysis and how they create the news, and yet he did an entire show without mentioning the fact that there was a leaked video of an ABC News reporter saying that they buried the Jeffrey Epstein story 3 years ago. That falls right into the alley of what his show claims to do. Did not mention it, not one peep.
What show? And does he say the whistleblower's name?
No, according to him, the whistleblower's name hasn't been leaked.
Has not been named. So I have noticed that when they go out of their way, they just ignore. It's like when that ISIS beheading video was in. There's like 21 Coptic Christians were beheaded. And there was on FoxNews.com the analyst that said clearly that was just, you can see the green screen effect. Like if for this to be reality, the ISIS guys would have had to been 7 feet tall, and you can see that it's a loop of like 7 people 3 times and all this stuff. This was on FoxNews.com. Yet Megyn Kelly forever after that would refer to the slaughter of Coptic Christians as being like the reason that we care about Libya and Egypt and all that. I'm like, you can just, it's like when Larry Pratt was on Piers Morgan talking about gun control. It's like facts just bounce off your head, don't they? They just bounce off your head.
There's so many stories that are just so over the top and that are not real that I guess it gets hard to distinguish in between the ones that are real and the ones that aren't.
I don't know. I think that's like that JFK thing. Like, what is so shocking about the JFK conspiracy is that everyone knows it and just pretends it's not true.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like, you know it, but the world that you need to live in doesn't allow for that. Like Edward Snowden said, people who need conspiracy theories to believe someone's in control. It's like, no. The world you need to live in is that no one is, that we're all free. That's the fantasy you need, that you can't even face these realities, which are like indisputable. It's
funny how that connects to the Jeffrey Epstein finding recently, because the coroner, the guy who did the examination of JFK's body, the one who determined that it was a magic bullet and it was only a lone shooter is the same guy who also came to the conclusion that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. So that's
that to me is just such a setup. Like, clearly that guy was planted. And I'll tell you, within an hour of the Epstein thing, I was like, this thing is going to be all about conspiracy theory, which is the smoke and mirrors to keep us from actually, it's the noise. Like, you can see it in the Cass Sunstein memo and other things that tell you, like, just fill the air with noise so that people can't pull out the thing that's true.
Yeah, and they're absolutely doing that with the impeachment hearings especially.
I've got, you start on that, and I will tell, because I'm just overwhelmed by the deeper insight I feel like I have into this. Or I can tell you my big picture takeaway.
I just imagine if your life, your happiness were resting on the outcome of this impeachment trial. Like, it would appear so many Americans' happiness is just relying on whether or not he gets outed or not. And there's everything is riding on this, at least the way they're presenting it in the news. I mean, what a miserable, sad life that would be.
And those people, like the Brian it's Stelter?
Stelter.
Okay.
Shithead. I shouldn't say that, but he is. He is. He covered up for Epstein. I have a video of it.
Okay,
3 years ago.
That's true. But these people who, not him, like, he knows probably. He doesn't care.
Yes.
But there are people who require this false narrative, and it goes to what we were just saying, like it's a lot. The real hardcore liberal Democrats were the 9/11 truthers.
Yeah.
Those people are not all dead.
No.
Where are they? You know what I mean? Now, all of a sudden, conspiracy theorists are white supremacists, and this is all real.
Yeah.
You
right,
know?
Exactly.
I mean, it's just the ability for people to fool themselves is mind-boggling.
It really is mind-boggling, and the way the media overwhelms us, like we talked about, it plays into that. I would start the impeachment discussion with did you see the 4 talking points, the leaked Republican talking points, the defenses that the Republicans are going to be throwing at the impeachment thing today?
I saw the headline, but I didn't see them, so why don't you tell me what they were?
It was leaked by Democrats, by the way.
How did they get it?
I don't know, but it's pretty obvious what they are. But this is what they're doing.
Moles.
I'll tell you what they are, but here's what they're doing with it. I watched a few of the CNN programs last night and earlier today. Is the reason that this was leaked is because if you're only watching CNN and MSNBC and all these other outlets, you're not hearing any of the defense. So if you hear some of these defenses fresh if you hear the Senate or the Congress people questioning the witnesses live, and you go, "Whoa, I never thought of that." I don't have a justification for that in my mind, so you might start to feel a little bit of cognitive dissonance. They leaked this so that they could spend every program last night across MSNBC and CNN stating them, just like they say in the CNN deception manual, giving them the responses that people are going to have. Here are their defenses.
CIA or CNN deception?
CIA, yeah, maybe both. Here are the defenses that the opposition is going to have, and here's why they're just ridiculous and incredible.
Oh, of course.
So
the preemptive slam, of course.
The preemptive discrediting of them, and here they are. The first one is that the July 25th call shows no condition or evidence of pressure, which is funny because the Ukrainian president yesterday came out and said, he was asked about it, he said he felt no pressure, he felt no coercion. He said that there was no blackmail, there was no corruption, that it was just a call. This is the Ukrainian president who said that yesterday. Said no bribery, all the stuff they're talking about today. He said none of it happened. Can you imagine if somebody was openly talking about you, saying Monica was coerced into doing this, and you're going, no, I wasn't, and they're going, no, yes, you were. You were coerced into doing. No, I wasn't. Yes, you were. So despite Zelensky saying the opposite of what they're claiming, I guess they're saying he's too dumb to know he was coerced. I mean, isn't this insulting to the Ukrainian president for him to be openly saying that what the Democrats are saying is wrong, yet they're still claiming it's true?
I think so. What I'm really confused by, though, is I heard the impeachment testimony this morning from Bill Taylor, and he had this entire narrative that I just don't buy. So whatever, I mean, they're saying stuff that contradicts that, but I don't believe it anyway.
Yeah, the other 3 are, I did hear some of that stuff too. The other 3 are President Zelensky and Trump. They both said there was no pressure on the call, just like I was just mentioning. And then the third one is that Ukraine was not aware that there was a hold on the security at the time of the call. And the fourth one is that the assistance was given despite the fact that an investigation into Biden was not announced. So they discredited all those. They spent the past couple of days doing that on the left-wing networks. And so now they can just, when they hear it on the hearing, they go, oh, yeah, there's that BS
So wait,
excuse.
what were the middle 2 again? It was a little too fast for me.
The second one was that President Trump and President Zelensky have both said there was no pressure on the call.
That was the first one, though.
That was the second one. The first one's similar to that. The first one is that on the July 25th call, the summary of the conversation shows no condition or evidence of pressure.
Right, okay. And then what was the third one?
The third one was that the Ukraine government was not aware that the aid was being withheld at the time of the call.
Yes, that is important.
Yeah.
Because that actually totally contradicts with what Bill Taylor said this morning, that they actually talked about the aid being withheld.
Oh, one more thing before you go into that.
I'm not going into that because I just like there was so much I didn't hear it all.
Somebody on CNN last night talking about Bill Taylor, and we pointed this out weeks ago when this guy's name first came up.
Every time his name comes up, I say he is the
most credible person. Yes, and somebody on CNN said last night, they said, Bill Taylor's credibility is amazing. He's done this. He was in the military. He's done that. His credibility is not to be questioned. It cannot be questioned. They literally said his credibility cannot be questioned.
I was watching him lie. Like, I actually switched from listening to the serious. You know what that means?
What's it mean?
It's Yiddish for penis.
Yeah, that's right.
That's just too graphic for me as a New Yorker. So I'm watching him, Like, he's a liar is what he is. I don't know if he's a putz or not. But he is looking into the camera so I had to switch from listening to it on Sirius to watching it to see, like, or he's looking at whoever he's talking to see, like, how these people are, like, pulling off these lies. And I'll tell you, him and Adam Schiff, they were just steadfast in their gaze. I was like, wow, like, that's a special gift. This is how they can pick people as teens. They're like, lie to me again, man. Like, Comey. Like, his claims to fame was as a teenager, he was such a credible liar. He nearly got somebody killed, like, death penalty or whatever, gone to jail forever. I mean, to lie like that is pretty amazing.
Can I tell you something about Adam Schiff that I learned last night?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That in his spare time.
Oh, boy. Is this going to be more vulgar than the
he writes
name calling
screenplays and pitches them to Hollywood agencies. None of them
like
have been
Mnuchin.
accepted yet. Who?
Or Mnuchin. The Secretary of the Treasury made Central Intelligence, that movie, and a lot of other movies.
You remember when Schiff read Trump's transcripts and then he just made up a dramatic reading of Trump's transcripts a few weeks ago?
Oh, this is... Okay.
So Schiff, he's written...
This is part of the subtext.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, Adam Schiff is becoming the center of it. I did predict that.
Schiff's screenplays, the first one he ever wrote is a pre-Holocaust story called Remnant. That one didn't get picked up. His second one is a murder mystery called Minotaur. A Minotaur, by the way, is a mythical Greek bull-headed monster with the body of a person and the head of a bull.
Oh, wow. And what's the one with the body? Oh, that's a centaur.
Centaur.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And that one didn't get picked up. And his third one...
It's a murder mystery of a
His
Minotaur.
third one is a spy drama. Maybe it's about a elderly house speaker, maybe two lovers. So he's a screenplay writer. He writes fiction, fantasy.
My gosh. So, well, that's part of this whole thing. That's where we're going to flip the script and make Schiff the main story.
Yeah.
So what made me think of this guy as being a liar, like looking into the camera as a liar, was Schiff and Taylor clearly had this set up. I'm lucky in all of this that I actually heard them really tell us what this is all about. And I'm afraid it will disappear forever. So I stopped the live stream and fortunately I rewind it and I took like a video on my phone of it. 2 minutes of this is what it's all about. Schiff asks, I don't have a clip or anything, but I actually scribbled down my pen the quotes. I would like to read them if you can tolerate that.
Yeah, go for it.
So Schiff says, how does this affect our national security? If we believe in a principle of sovereignty of nations where countries get to determine their own economic, political, and security alliances, we have to support Ukraine and its fight. The kind of aggression we see by Russia can't stand. That's what H.W. Bush said about Iraq.
It's the foreign policy focus.
Russia can't stand. So how is it how does it impact American national security that we provide, or how is it important to American national security that we provide for a robust defense of Ukraine's sovereignty? So that's the question. And we can talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Defend Ukraine's sovereignty. I mean, we have covered from the very beginning, even before I knew you, I was covering this, that we orchestrated a coup in Ukraine in complete defiance of its sovereignty and its right to self-determination, its right to economic, political, and security alliances. Specifically, they were making an economic and political alliance with Russia that we would not allow. And we killed people and overthrew their government to stop it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that's what he's saying. So he's setting it up so that this whole thing is about convincing, I'll give you the punchline first, of the two things that this, to me, was really, really about. One is this rock solid Bill Taylor and the way he was talking about it. He makes it crystal clear, just like the theme that you brought up, that the deep state is pure of intention.
Yep.
That they are there, that they know better than we do, and they are pure of intention.
Yeah.
They might bend the rules, but that's what Edward Snowden was saying, but they are pure of intention. Okay?
Yeah.
And the second thing
Can I say one thing related to that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
John Bolton, there was a story about John Bolton giving behind closed door talks at like a meeting or something, bashing Trump's foreign policy decisions, saying similar things to Taylor, to what you're saying here. So this unity in foreign policy and war stuff, regardless of who it is, but the deep state actors, is coming out from other areas too.
And that the disputes are all about what's good for the country.
Yeah, right.
Right? Like, I heard that Bolton stuff, like this is a drug game or whatever, a drug deal, or, and they're all talking about their opinions about the best policy for national security.
Richard Haas, Council on Foreign Relations,
they
same
all
thing.
Act like there's nobody. So we're supposed to be getting all this behind the scenes stuff, all this inside baseball. And the number one takeaway is every single person here is pure of intention.
Absolutely. Now,
I'm reading the book. This is one of those times when my husband's just like, I don't know who you are anymore. The book I'm going to show you it's called Western Mainstream Media and the Ukraine Crisis, a Study in Conflict Propaganda by Oliver Boyd Barrett. And if the publishers ever thought that anyone would read this book, it could not have been written.
Really?
Yes, it
is.
So
you just got that, right?
Oh, it was so expensive. These like academic things are like $60.
They are, yeah.
They're so freaking expensive. So
you already read it.
No, I'm
Yeah.
I'm on page like 15, 18. It's I couldn't bring it on my vacation to Hawaii. I had to take something a little, the biography of Marie Antoinette, a little lighter reading.
Yeah.
So this Oliver Boyd Barrett, I'm tempted to buy everything he ever wrote before it all gets scooped away, but he completely validates everything that I've been able to glean about Ukraine. Like all this stuff. Yes, the Western media not only misrepresented, but basically represented what happened in Ukraine as the opposite of what happened. That it was Russian aggression. It's completely not. I think this guy's British, but he works in America. I don't know, but he's a professor and he's above reproach. His
cannot be questioned, his credibility.
But let me just read for you the passage that Taylor clearly, he was saying it. He wasn't reading it. He was reading everything else. This was absolutely planned and scripted. This is the message that is supposed to be implanted deeply into your brain. I'm surprised they didn't have some kind of like fire alarm going off right before it so that your brain would open up and they could dump this in.
Yeah.
This is what he said. He said, we have a national security policy. I scribbled it down, so hopefully I can read my own writing. A national defense policy that identifies Russia and China as adversaries. Russians are violating all the rules, treaties, understandings that they committed to that actually kept the peace in Europe for almost 70 years until they invaded Ukraine in 2014. They had abided by sovereignty of nations, inviolability of borders. I just have to interrupt for a second. Like we do in Syria. Syria and Ukraine are like the same thing. It's like gas into Europe. I think those are two, if you look at them, they're the two bottlenecks of getting gas into Europe. We do the same thing in both places. But we did not respect the sovereignty. We had a coup in Ukraine. So it says that
pro-democracy coup, right?
Yes, to take out the democratically elected guy because the dumb people who elected him didn't realize he wasn't really democratic.
Right, now they got a dumb president there who doesn't even realize he's being coerced.
So it says that rule of law, that order, that rule of law, that order that kept the peace in Europe. So Kissinger uses that, the world order, the new world order, like that's what all that comes from, order. That kept the peace in Europe and allowed for prosperity, so for all you people who just want to be rich, as well as peace in Europe, was violated by the Russians. And if we don't push back on that violation, then that will continue. And that, Mr. Chairman, affects us. Okay, so first of all, they started it. We have to push back or it'll continue. This is the kind of stuff you heard in Iraq and Kuwait, Vietnam, everything. We have to push back. But here's where it's totally immoral for conservatives to buy this stuff, but they do it because they They don't understand the true meaning of thou shalt not kill and thou shalt not steal. Sorry. I'm not saying you conservatives are listening to this. I mean, like the neoconservatives. I think some conservatives listen to us, some libertarians, some truthers, but I'm just saying like the neoconservative thing, which is bastardized true conservatism, traditional conservatism, like my father was. Okay, it says it affects, so this affects us, Mr. Chairman. It affects the world that we live in, that our children will grow up in, our grandchildren. This affects the kind of world we want to see overall. So that affects our national interests very directly. So Ukraine is on the front line of that conflict.
This is the book, or this is Taylor?
No, this is what Taylor is saying to Schiff today.
So he's advocating a foreign policy in favor of Ukraine.
Yes, he's trying to justify. Here's the thing. This is where it always comes down to. Conservatives believe in like the 10 Commandments and stuff like that. It's very hard to get even the most brainwashed neocon voter. Well, I don't know about that, but it's the problem with the conservative position is they realize that you can't aggress on somebody. You can't invade another country unless they are going to be a physical threat to you. That's how real defense works. The liberals aren't like that. The liberals can do like a humanitarian war, right? Now, this is post-Obama. Prior to that, they had their shit together. But right now, they just, whatever. But here's where the neoconservatives kind of mess it up in your head. They say that your national interest is the same as national defense, national security. They use all those things together. But a just war expressly forbids making an aggressive move in another country on the basis of national interest. So because it affects us, it affects our children, affects our grandchildren, affects the world we live in, that doesn't mean we have a right to control it. He said it affects the kind of world we want to see overall. That's what he said. The kind of world we want to see. First of all, who the hell is we? Who the hell is we? And he means America. And why do we get to determine the kind of world we want to see overall and get to enforce that at a point of a gun at the expense of another nation? That's not everything everyone does affects everything in the world. The butterfly's wing flapping affects everything. You have no right to control how you are affected by the free actions of other individuals. And that applies as you go up the chain to other countries and other groups, whatever. You can keep somebody from taking your stuff, killing you personally. And if you have some collective agreement where you own something in joint, you can jointly defend. But you are not allowed to change other people's world because their decisions affect you.
Yeah.
Affecting.
I mean, that's the reason to do anything.
As violating.
You could use that. You could use it affects us to do absolutely anything.
Yeah, that is what Hitler would say.
That's what they do with climate change.
You're affecting the world I live in.
Yeah. What is this guy doing promoting a specific foreign policy angle or position during impeachment hearings into abuse of power? What does his opinion on foreign policy have to do with this investigation? And it's what Haas talks about, and it's what you just said.
That's a great point. He is just saying that the whole big picture reason that this whole entire show, I can't get into the New York Times article and the Wall Street Journal article from today that talks about the corruption in Ukraine, the backstory. I have to say one thing about it. Kolomoisky, my favorite oligarch, not really the most infamous oligarch I know of, said, he said the IMF is withholding aid because the IMF is withholding aid from Ukraine right now until they resolve the issue of Privat Bank, which Ukraine bailed out. You know, he's got whatever. It's so freaking complicated and we're running out of time.
Yeah. And that's one of the talking points on CNN. They say the Republicans will tell you it's too complicated, it's too nuanced, and you can't understand it. Don't listen to them. Here's how simple it is.
I have to get into this tomorrow on this show. I will get into what Kolomoisky said. I really think that the aid at the heart of this, the corruption, this is all about the corruption that at the heart of the Burisma scandal, and that almost like the impeachment thing is a cover for it. And
yeah,
Trump could just be being used. He could be in, I don't know, but these guys are setting us up for aggression against Russia, and the corruption stuff in the background plays into it. It's a huge. It's big and bad, and it reminds me of the Army War College podcast that you played on Propaganda Report, where the guy said the 2020 election will provide a tripwire for America to understand the threat Russia poses. And this, I think, is a parallel track to get us to understand that where the fight is to be fought.
Educating the
against
public.
Russia.
Like, as Bernays would say, this is a way of informing and educating the public of the threat of Russia through these public hearings.
Yeah, Irving Kristol said that too, that the job of the elite is to shape the opinions of the plebes.
Well, they're certainly attempting to do that right now. This is an overwhelming amount of propaganda we're getting smacked in the face with, and we'll be all week, and we'll be here all week to cover it on your Drive Time News Blast, which you can find every day at 4 p.m. on thepropreport.com or your favorite podcasting platform with a Propaganda Report podcast feed. So have a drink, have a smoke.
I'm too hyped up for that.
The
music isn't working today.
Well,
the music isn't working.
Watching only 20 minutes of this hearing can be maddening. It's just like, this is a sham. I mean, we knew
maybe
that.
It's time for a couple of shots.
I'm sure there's some drinking games we could come up with. We'll see y'all tomorrow.